So first of all, we'll need to find where the switch is now. So by default, it will pick up a DHCP address. So it'll contact my router, and my router will give it an IP address somewhere within one of my networks. So in order to find out which network it's going to get an IP address from, we'll have to see what VLAN is tagged on the port where the second switch is plugged into. So I'll pull up the interface of my current switch of the Aruba, which is on 10.21.99.2. And I will also pull up another window here. Go. There we go. Windows snap. So let's take a look at the VLANs configured on this Aruba switch. Okay, so I've got the default VLAN 1, 10, 20, 30, 40, 99, 200. Each have their own name and IP address range. So the Cisco switch, the other switch, is plugged into port 3 on the Aruba. And port 3 is configured to have an untagged VLAN of 99. So what that means is there is just one VLAN ID on this port. So port 3 is just 99. There's nothing else. You can see I have a couple other ones, 20, 30, and 40 tagged on port 2. So by default, if I plug a device that's factory reset, if I plug a device into port 2, it's going to get an address of 10.21.99 something from the DHCP server because the port is untagged. You're telling the switch this is the main VLAN, and then the tags are kind of like add-ons, but you need to tell the device to look for this add-on, for this tag, so to speak, for it to know, okay, if the device VLAN ID is set to say 20, then it will see, oh, there's VLAN ID 20 on this port. So I'm able to talk to this subnet or to this network of VLAN ID 20. It can get very confusing. It takes a while to wrap your head around VLAN IDs, around VLANs in general, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it's pretty cool. And it's also a way to secure your network, to separate traffic from each other. So port 3 is set to untag 99, so that's the only thing that's on here, nothing else. So I plug the switch in, port 3, it'll get an IP address on the 10.21.99 because, and I should mention this, VLAN IDs and IP address ranges don't necessarily match. It's nice to have them match just for simplicity, but this VLAN ID could be 199 or 220, and my IP address subnet could be 10.21.1, something completely unrelated. So it can be whatever. It's just nice to have it match your subnet, just to keep it, just to quickly know, okay, 99.20.10, and so on and so forth. Okay, so enough talk about that. We'll have to find which IP address the switch got from our DHCP server. So in order to do that, I'll pull up my router and configuration, and we'll go to the DHCP server leases, and it's already highlighted here. So this is the switch 44EA30. This is the only other switch I have in this network. I know it's not the Aruba because the Aruba is 1099.2, and which is outside of the configured DHCP range. So my DHCP server does not actually give out addresses in the .99 from 1 to 19. So it starts at 20 You can see it here. The first address is 20, 21, 20, 23, 20, 23, 24. Not sure what happened to 22, but sometimes it doesn't go in order. Sometimes it picks a random, depending on the router, sometimes it just picks a random one. Anyway, so 10.21.99.23 is where our switch is. So in our second browser tab, we are gonna navigate to that 10.21.99.23. Bingo. Username Cisco. Oh, spell that right. So the username Cisco cannot be used to replace the default username. Oh, okay, so it wants me to use a different username. Okay, then we'll just do admin. And then pick another password. And we're in. So the first thing that we want to do here is we want to go to the administration settings. We can enter system location, system contact. This is more for business, for the business side. Since I'm running this at home, I'm the one that's going to be administering this, so I'm not worried about this. I want to look for the IPv4 interface. So this is where I can set the IP address of the management console. Currently, we only have management VLAN 1. And this works right now because the other switch is untagged 99. So that's why it got an address in my management subnet. But VLAN ID 1 is the default and it works with everything. So, and we don't want that because we want to have our management on a specific VLAN ID. We don't want to use 1. Also, for any future network setup, try to avoid 1 whenever possible, because 1 will work with anything or with everything. It's always best to create your VLANs and your subnets, make a complete separate subnet for VLAN ID 1 and just leave it on the side. Leave it there, don't connect anything to it. You could maybe give it a range of 10 IP addresses on your DHCP server, just so when maybe a configuration does go haywire or someone plugs something into a port that hasn't been configured with a different VLAN, then this device is able to get something, an IP address. But it's always best practice to avoid using VLAN by default for everything. So in here, we want to actually set the IP address type to static. This we're not able to change yet. We'll need to create the VLANs and then assign it to the port we're plugged into. Then it'll let us change the management VLAN. But for now, we want to change the IP address to something static. I don't want this to be handled by my DHCP server. Just like the ESXi that I set up, I want it to be a specific IP address, always there no matter what happens to the network. So in my case, I would like to use, I know 1 is my router, .1 is my router, .2 is my Aruba switch, .3 is the ESXi server, .4, let's see if .4 is free. So in order to do that, I'm going to pull up a command prompt and we are going to ping, very useful command, ping 10.21.99.4. So this is kind of like a phone call. It calls this address and sees if it can get a reply back. If not, then we know that there's nothing on it. Okay, so we got destination host unreachable. There's nothing there. If, just to show you what it would look like if there was something on it, I'm gonna ping the Aruba switch. So here you can see reply from 10.21.99.2, and then it tells me the details here, less than 1 millisecond. So this means, yep, something's here. .2 has responded, right? But here we're getting a destination host unreachable, right? It's not this is my computer here. So it's just saying, nope, there's nothing here. Okay, so that after confirming that, we'll punch that in here. Administrative default gateway, that's correct, that's my router. We'll leave that alone. Network mask is also correct. We'll leave that alone as well. And as soon as I hit apply, I'm going to lose connection because I'm changing the IP address, but we know how to get back in. It's just changing the 23 up here to .4. Yes, okay. Oh, look at that. It auto switched. Okay, cool. So then we want to go admin. And I'll log back into here as well so we can see what settings we need to copy. Okay, here's our VLANs. So let's go and configure our VLAN IDs, which will be in here. And we'll want to go down to VLAN settings. And we want to add 10, which is going to be our LAN. Apply 20 is going to be WLAN. 30 is going to be guest. More precisely, guest WLAN. 40 is going to be IoT. And then we already, then we also have 99, which is very important. That's our management. And a 200, which is our point-to-point. Okay, that should be good enough for now. 10, 20, 30, 40, 99, 200. Perfect. Okay. Next, we'll need to assign the VLANs to the respective ports. In order to do that, we'll want to go to port to VLAN. So the switch uplink from here, from port 3, to this Cisco switch is on 12 currently. So I will need to change VLAN ID 1. I don't want to use that. As you can see, everything's untagged on VLAN ID 1, right? That's the default configuration. But we'll want to change that. Right now, we're just worried about setting up the management part of it, so we can get to everything. We can get to the console. And I want to have VLAN ID 99. I actually want to set up port 25 and 26, my last two ports, as my uplinks. So from the router, I want the LAN uplink to go to port 25 on the Cisco switch, which will carry all VLANs. So what I want to do is then untag. Oh, I have to hit go. That's a tricky button up there. Okay, there we go. So this is excluded. Yeah, that makes more sense. This is excluded from everything because we haven't actually told the system where to use it. So port 25, we want to untag 25 and untag 26. These are just the uplinks to the switch and the router, right? So the management part. And I want to hit apply. Okay, so now if we switch back to 1, we can now see that VLAN ID 1 is excluded on 25 and 26. Perfect. We don't want anything to do with VLAN ID 1. Okay, good. Then we want to go back into the administration part of it and go to management interface. Sorry, there's one more thing that I forgot to do. Need to go back to port VLAN. Go to 99. Since the uplink to the switch is on port 12 right now, I need to tag 99 on port 12. Because remember, the current management VLAN is ID 1. Yes, we're on .99, but the VLAN ID on the switch is 1. So I need to tag it on port 12 to be able to switch it to 99. And I can't untag it right now because as soon as I untag this port, this will be the only thing on that port. And it will kick me out and I can't get back in because it still thinks that management is on VLAN ID 1, not on 99, right? But the port is configured for untag 99. So I'll have to tag this with 99, hit apply. And then I want to go back to IPv4 interface. And in here, I now have a drop down of 99 for the management VLAN. Perfect. So once we hit apply, it's going to change the management VLAN ID from 1 to 99. And since our port 25 is untagged and 26, I'm going to go and change the cable now from port 12, the uplink from the Aruba to the Cisco from port 12 to port 25 on the Cisco. Hit apply. Yeah, and I lost access. Okay, we're back in. Uplink is now on port 25. And we can talk to it. We can log in and we can double check in here just to make sure. Our management VLAN ID is 99. Perfect. And that's the only option because port 25 only has VLAN ID 99 untagged on it. Awesome. So that takes care of the management side of it. So let's go and configure all the other stuff. So we need to configure LAN. Yeah, all these VLANs. So I need PoE for both access points, the antenna on my roof and my Wi-Fi access point. So those will need to be plugged into a PoE port, and to see which ports are PoE, we'll need to go to PoE and then settings. And in here, it'll tell us which ports. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. These are actually on top of one another. So 1 through 6 is horizontal, and then on the top half, and then 13 to 18 is actually just below the 6 below those. That's just the way the Cisco switch has its ports numbered. So we could plug the access point into port 1. That would work just fine. And just to keep things separated for the point-to-point, we'll do port 13 for the antenna on the roof. So let's do that. Let's go back to port to VLAN. My access point is also able to do VLANs. If you just have a home router or a home Wi-Fi unit, those usually don't do VLAN management. But since I have a Ubiquiti access point, those are able to do VLANs. So what I'm going to do is actually have port 1 untagged 99. Gotta press the go button. Have port 1 untagged 99. Okay, so that when I plug my access point in, it'll get a 99 address. So I can manage it. That's the management side part of it, right? So I'll hit apply. I'll do the same thing for, no, never mind. That's on a separate VLAN. Then I want to switch over to my WLAN, which is 20. Yes. And then I hit go. And I want to tag 20 on port 1. So that way I can say, okay, the management part of the access point is on 99. So the access point IP address itself is in 99. But when it authenticates or when it allows access to the Wi-Fi part, so for example, my laptop, my phone, if any of those devices connect to the access point, they will only get to VLAN ID 20, which is my WLAN. And then we'll also want to do that for our guest Wi-Fi. And we'll want to tag 30. I think I forgot to apply 20. It's a tricky one here. There we go. Apply that again. 40 for my IoT stuff. Tag it as well. Good. Okay. So port 1 is now configured the way I would like it to for the access point. Port 13. That's my antenna on the roof, which is plugged into port 1 on the Aruba. Oh, it's also untagged VLAN 99 and tagged VLAN 200. Okay, so in order to do that, we'll do the same thing again. We'll go back to 99, untag it on 13, go to 200, and tag that on there. Good. And we also have port 5. This seems to also be configured the same as this. I'm not sure exactly what this is. I don't have multiple access points. Port 4 is what my computer is plugged into. So what we can do there is we can do port 24. We'll start from the back. Port 24 we'll put on VLAN 10. So then I want to switch to 10, 24, and untag that. It doesn't need to carry anything additional. I just want anything to be plugged in to 24 to be on VLAN 10. Nothing else. Port 6 is on 20. I don't think there's anything plugged into that one currently. 7 is on 99. So we'll throw in another, it doesn't need to be PoE, but it needs to be a 99 subnet. So maybe we'll do from 7. Oops. So we'll do 7, untag 99. So anything plugged into here gets the 99 address. And then our uplink, so port 8 on this switch is the uplink. That has everything tagged. On this side, I have untagged VLAN 1. I just switched it. I have untagged VLAN 1. Which is fine. That way, if something is plugged into this exact port without any configuration, it will just be on the VLAN ID 1, which is separated from everything else. In my case, I know that I'm only plugging in my switch, so that's fine with me. I do, however, need to tag everything else on the uplink in order for the router and the switch to communicate these VLAN IDs to each other. Because if I leave one of them out and a device is going to go looking for that, if I plug something into, say, port 6 here, it's on VLAN ID 20, but I don't put it into my uplink, then it won't be able to find that. The router can't, or the switch will not be passing that to the router because it's not configured on the uplink. So it'll just be stuck. It'll be lost. So we'll want to do 25. We'll need to tag that and that. Oh, that's already untagged. And then 200 also tagged. Good. I think that looks good to me. We'll go to the port VLAN membership table. This gives us a nice overview of what is configured in what way. So we can see here port 1 is untagged 99, tag 20, 30, and 40. And then our uplink is also untagged 99 and tagged 10, 20, 30, 40, and 200. And then we have our 10 untagged here on port 24. And to right now it's still a trunk for port 24. For anything that's just carrying one VLAN, make it an access port, because that way that's the only thing it carries. There's nothing else on it. We'll change that in here. Port 24, convert it to access. Okay, now it's an access trunk. Sorry, access port. Now it's an access port with just VLAN ID 10 on it. Let's take a look. There was another one here. Port 7 was a 99. Untagged. This was my temporary uplink. That one we can get rid of. Okay. So port 7, 99. Now you know what? I'm going to switch those around to keep the 99s on this end. But no, that's already messed up here. Okay, let's change port 7 to an access trunk. Sorry, to an access port. Done. Okay. Okay, that looks good to me. I don't have anything on here yet because I don't have a second switch, but potentially I would have to do the same thing on this port as I did on here, just to have the uplinks talk to each other, carry all the VLAN IDs from one switch to another, so the switches know about what is there and what's not. One thing I forgot to mention is you see all these other ports that I'm not configuring. They're just on VLAN ID 1. That's because I'm not using them. Also, another thing I want to mention is these Cisco switches have a super duper mega save. So up here, this flashing icon is your friendly reminder to save your configuration from a running config to a start up config. So what you're running currently, it's going to copy that and write it to the start config. If you happen to reboot it without doing this, you're going to have to redo all that work. So that's very critical to know if you don't want to lose your configuration and start the process all over again. Have had many of these situations happen. Especially bad is it when you're quickly going in there doing something, changing a port VLAN or something, and then forget to save it. You leave it running. It works. But as soon as the power goes out, one day you just have a power outage, comes back online, it's going to load up the last startup config it knows about. So very important, click the save button and save your running config to your startup config. And done. That looks good. We should be able to go downstairs and swap out the switches, plug everything into their configured ports, and we should be back up and running. So that's what we're going to do next.